Our next speaker is William Simpson, the Field Museum's first new dinosaur.
The Field Museum was founded as an outgrowth of the World's Columbian Exposition, Chicago's World's Fair of 1893. The business plan called for the new museum, then called the Field Columbian Museum, to purchase various exhibits from the fair to found its collections. The paleontology collection was founded through the purchase of the Ward's Natural Science Establishment collection. This exhibit contained about 5,000 fossils, but what it did not contain was a dinosaur. Then as now, dinosaurs were an important exhibit draw for attendance. The first curator of the brand new Department of Geology, Oliver Farrington, a meteoriticist, knew he needed to add a paleontologist to his new staff to collect vertebrate fossils for exhibit. In 1898, Farrington hired a young Princeton PhD student named Elmer Riggs. Riggs was a Midwestern boy, and he'd gotten his master's degree at KU under the famous vertebrate paleontologist Samuel Wendell Williston. Riggs signed on for a trial run with the museum in the summer of 1898. Farrington took him to the Big Badlands of South Dakota to give him a chance to prove his abilities in the field, and he did quite well. Riggs then convinced Farrington to let him prospect for a dinosaur specimen complete enough to mount and put on exhibit. In the summer of 1899, Riggs led a small three-man team out to the Freeze-Out Hills in central Wyoming to exposures of the late Jurassic Morrison Formation, rocks that were producing an abundant dinosaur fauna, including the huge sauropod Brontosaurus, the largest known dinosaur of the time. What Riggs found that first summer were bone beds, disarticulated bones with many different dinosaurs, but not a single skeleton of an individual complete enough to mount and exhibit. So in the summer of 1900, Riggs led his team out to Morrison exposures in western Colorado, just west of the Colorado River, near the little town of Grand Junction. On July 4th, his preparator, H.W. Bill Menke, found the end of a huge bone which had broken off and rolled down the slope of a small hill. Searching back uphill, the team uncovered the rest of the bone, a bone that measured 6.5 feet in length. The largest bones then known were the femora of Brontosaurus, which were about 6 feet in length. The team kept digging and uncovered a string of giant vertebrae connected to a sacrum, which are the fused vertebrae between the hips, and then two articulated tail vertebrae. You can see the string of vertebrae in the sacrum going from lower left to upper right there. Underneath the vertebral column was yet another femur, also measuring 6.5 feet in length. They also found a bone from the shoulder, a bone from the hips, and 4 ribs, the longest of which was 9 feet in length. Riggs figured he'd found a really large individual of Brontosaurus, but it was only about 20% complete, not complete enough to mount for exhibit. The team was disappointed, but as this was the best specimen they had discovered that summer, they collected it. They transported it back to the museum in field jackets and began the process of removing rock from the bones. When finished, Riggs realized that one of the 2 huge thigh bones was actually a gigantic humerus. This humerus at 6.5 feet long was about 50% longer than the humerus in Brontosaurus. Riggs now knew he had a new dinosaur, the world's largest, and it retained that title for more than half a century. Unlike any previously known sauropod, this one had really long forelimbs. And in 1903, Riggs officially named it Brachiosaurus altithorax, which means arm lizard with a deep chest. By the way, in the following summer of 1901, Riggs and crew dug up a Brontosaurus skeleton, which was 65% complete, and they mounted it for exhibit under the name Apatosaurus, unveiling it in 1908. Riggs had deep sixed the name Brontosaurus as a junior synonym of Apatosaurus in 1903. But Riggs was always frustrated that the holotype of Brachiosaurus was not complete enough to mount. In the 1990s, Field Museum produced a Brachiosaurus mount for the big main hall in the museum. This mount consisted of casts of the holotype, along with sculpted bones based on the Brachiosaurus material that the Germans had found in Tendaguru, Tanzania. In 2000, Sue, our big T-Rex, displaced the Brachiosaurus mount, which was moved out to the United Terminal at O'Hare Airport. But we commissioned a second all-weather mount, which is displayed outside the Field Museum on the West Terrace, as you can see on the left there. So tonight when you go to the banquet, take a look outside the museum before you enter the museum, and you'll see Brachiosaurus standing there on the terrace. Thanks.